So once you have a sense of what type of foot you have, then you can start looking at the different categories of shoes. So looking at the stability shoes or the motion control shoes, there's going to be a lot more engineering characteristics to those shoes to help minimize how much your foot will flatten out and be unstable, basically. And so when you looked at how well your foot performed going down off of the step test, and if it was really flat on the wet test, then you're probably going to want to have a shoe that has more stability built into it and more motion control. And it just varies. There's a lot of variety even within the stability shoes, and then amongst different manufacturers you're going to see different characteristics. So if we look at a New Balance and a Saucony, you're going to see that they both have a more denser material on this inner arch area or the inner heel, and that's trying to minimize how much the foot flattens out. So it's trying to block that and minimize how much roll there is. And if we look at the Mizuno, they do the same thing, but they do it with plastic. So they put a plastic insert in there that goes, in some cases, to the arch, and then in their more extreme ones they have plastic that runs all the way to the toe. And so there's just going to be varying degrees of how much control each individual shoe has built into it. The other thing to look at is the heel counter. And so the heel counter, again, is the part that comes up around your heel, and the more rigid it is and the more that it grabs your heel, the more it's going to control and minimize how much your foot can roll. So if your heel is allowed to move, then that's also going to allow the rest of your foot to move. And so by grabbing onto your heel, so to speak, and lacing it up snugly in there, then it's going to help to control and minimize how much your foot rolls. And so that's an important thing, especially if you not only have a tendency to be flat or have a flat foot, but if you know that you've had issues with unstable ankles. A lot of times we hear people say I have weak ankles or I roll my ankles all the time. Then you want a shoe that has that heel counter that grabs onto the back of your heel. The other thing to look at is different companies tend to make shoes wider or narrower. Nikes and Asics and Mizunos tend to be a little narrower. And so for me, for instance, I have a narrow heel, and so those are the shoes that I've tended towards over the years. And when I've tried Saucony and New Balance, those shoes tend to be a little wider. And so people who have a little broader foot are going to tend to like the Saucony and the New Balance in general. And you know, there's definitely variations within each manufacturer, but that's a general trend that I've noticed over the years and what people have told me as well. And so that's something to consider is this Saucony has a good heel counter, but if I put this shoe on, my foot's just going to slide all over it because it doesn't fit snugly into the heel. And so between the heel counter and the sort of the arch support area, you should feel more rigidity in the shoe. So when you grab it and twist it, and try to twist it longitudinally and also try to bend it, you should notice that it doesn't want to give very much. And you're going to see lots of variations on how much it controls. And the more that it controls is that we say it's got more motion control. And so there's definitely a variety of how much that's going to be rigid and how much it's going to fight your motion versus allow you to have some play. And Nike tends to be on the lesser end of stability shoes, but they do make some shoes that have some support, but you'll see that they have more give to them even though they've got some stability built into the sole. Nike tends to be, at least the last few years, pushing more towards the minimalistic shoe, but they do have a number of models that have stability built in, and this is one. This is what I tend to wear. It's got a wedge that's sort of that you can't see, but it's built in there. But for the most part, the shoe is pretty flexible other than that. So for people who need a little bit, if you saw my step down, I need a little bit of control, but for the most part, I don't need a lot. And so the rest of this shoe, there's not a lot of structure to it. And so it's kind of, I kind of think of those as a hybrid shoe, and you'll see the different companies have variations off of having a lot of structure, having a little bit of structure, and then tending towards more motion and letting your foot move a little bit more. And so again, you kind of have to see where your foot falls within that spectrum to find what's going to be best for you.